My name's Kevin Donaldson, and I am one of the new executive contributors to Rich Man Magazine. I'm a retired police officer. I've been retired for 10 years. I retired not the way that I wanted to retire. I was involved in a shooting while responding to a domestic dispute. Kind of sent me down a bad rabbit hole and really made me go into a really deep, dark place. When I started to crawl out of it, I realized that there was a lot of power in the darkness that I experienced. And it led me to use my voice in order to try to destigmatize mental health, and especially within law enforcement. Mental health awareness is the one thing that people pay very little attention to until it's time when you really, really need the help. If you would have talked to me 20 years ago, I would have thought people who sought mental help were crybabies, were maybe a little bit weaker. It's not until you step in their shoes that you really understand their problems. So I've drawn attention to it because if you were to meet me in person, I'm about 6'4", I'm about 240 pounds, played football my entire life. And there's the one thing that it's the one thing about the world that we truly don't understand, because there's no hard metric to it. Even the doctors who can look inside your brain, they can't tell why you're depressed or you're anxious or you're angry or you're impulsive. It's something that this world has got to pay more attention to, because if we do pay more attention to it, we become more resilient through certain training and I don't want to say normalization from it, but acceptance. If we were able to accept mental health as easily as we're able to accept, say, a broken arm in the medical field, maybe we can make some strides in order to give people a better life. Very few people know this, but I went to college for literature. I've always enjoyed when an author is able to weave a story and really make you see the big picture, to highlight whatever they're trying to highlight and get their message across. And throughout college, obviously I wrote theses, I wrote papers, I've written poetry, and it's very counterintuitive to what people perceive me as. So I've always been a very big fan and lover of literature. And I started reading Rich Man Magazine, and some of the articles that came out, they resonated with me. And it was brought to my attention by a friend of mine, Jessica Dalby, and I was very, very impressed. And Jessica was very gracious enough to write an article about me for Rich Man Magazine that came out on September 26th, and that's Law Enforcement Mental Health Awareness Day. It's kind of right in my wheelhouse. The response that I got from that article was really overwhelming. And Rich Man Magazine approached me and said, would you be interested in writing some articles? There wasn't even a question in my mind whether I was going to do it or not. Of course I'm going to do it, because I think there are a lot of voices out there that need to be heard, and some stories that really need to be highlighted, because there's some unsung heroes in the world. And I think Rich Man Magazine has a good platform in order to highlight those people who normally wouldn't get highlighted. There are certain people in this world that really have a great story, or they have some sort of damage in their past. My job as a contributor is to formulate those stories in a certain way to make it palatable to the reader. So I have my own views on how suffering and mental health will make you a better person. By highlighting these stories, we're able to show how people can heal by just running towards that suffering and giving it a big hug, rather than trying to run away. People run away from it. They drink, they do all sorts of bad behavior, and all it does is just make everything last longer. These people who I'm highlighting have embraced their pain, they've embraced their suffering, and these are some of the greatest people that I know. Now, if suffering is good, and I can't remember who said it, but if suffering is good and what makes you better, ought it not be sought out? So that's what I do. I seek out people's suffering. I seek out these amazing people who really just own their stuff. And those are the people I like to put out on the pedestal, because I'm going to show people that you embrace your stuff, you'll get through whatever problems you get through so much faster. And you really show your children, I've said this numerous times, if you can show people how you overcome adversity and how you overcome suffering, you really can show the world a true miracle, and a true miracle is a changed life. We all have some sort of imposter syndrome, something that we produce, whether it's a sports activity or a piece of literature or a podcast or something like that. We all put our heart and soul into it. And I think the thing we're most afraid of is somebody to come at us and say that it's no good. As we're recording this, I got one of the greatest compliments I've ever gotten in my life. And it was a compliment of my writing style. And when you're validated like that, those simple words, what it does to you is it keeps that hunger going inside to produce more and better content. And really, because you're encouraged to do so. And that's all we need in this world, is just a little bit of encouragement. Rich Man Magazine has encouraged me up and down. They've believed in me. And I'm still trying to figure out why, but I'm happy that they do. Gentleman who I met was Detective Chris Anderson. You might have seen him on First 48 or ID Discovery here on television. And what we found was we had a lot of common bonds in the mental stress that police work does to you. So it was really a fortuitous meeting. It was just sort of to meet up, to talk about stuff. And we came out of that meeting with the whole concept, the term, or the name of the book, which is Man, You Are Crazy. And once again, it's just a continuation of my own dark journey. Embracing that suffering, embracing all the pain that I went through, repurposing it, putting it back out into the world and showing it that it's actually one of your strengths. It's not a weakness. So Man, You Are Crazy is going to detail the damage that law enforcement takes on a daily basis that people don't realize. And it's not always the shootings or the car chases. It's the seeing things that you're not supposed to see in this life. You're not supposed to look at dead bodies. You're not supposed to look at dead children. You're not supposed to see people at their lowest possible moment. Aside from all the other stuff, because it's something that police don't train for. We train our bodies, but we rarely will train our minds. So this book, what we're looking to do with this book is get it out to not only the police community, but also those people in their atmosphere, those people that are surrounding them, because police officers often will have bad days and they'll be cantankerous and they'll be on edge. And this book is going to kind of explain why all that stuff has happened. Chris and I have worked extremely hard at trying to get this out to a different audience in order to draw some awareness that police need help mentally as much as they need help physically. The Suffering Podcast was born out of my thought process, because once I got through my deep, dark times, I realized that was the stuff that made me who I was. As much as it really stunk while I was going through it, and it was very difficult, what it did was it gave me a certain power. It gave me the ability to appreciate the things that I overlooked in my life. So rather than trying to run away and numb suffering or trying to ease it a little bit, I now try to embrace it. So that I took that concept, and I know that the world is filled with suffering. Everybody's got their own stuff. So with the Suffering Podcast, we highlight those stories of suffering and show how that overcoming adversity is really the good stuff in life. And that's really what makes you who you are. And we've been pretty successful. We're on 3 years, 158 episodes. And, thankfully it's gaining traction because I think it resonates with a lot of people. So if you're looking for hope in a hopeless world, why don't you go to thesufferingpodcast.com, check us out on YouTube or all audio platforms, and you're going to see people who really are willing to pour themselves out and achieve the next level. Read those articles in Rich Man Magazine, because those come from my heart. Those come from lessons that I've learned. Those come from people who I admire, who I try to aspire to pull a little bit of that secret sauce in order to make you successful. And success is not financial. Success is how you feel about yourself as a human being. So Rich Man Magazine, perfect platform to do this. The people who are highlighted in there and the stories that are highlighted in there, you're going to find some nuggets of information that you're going to be able to use for the rest of your life.